This is TWiT.
Apple has gone to court. I think this is really interesting, to sue Israel's NSO Group for making spyware that breaks Apple's iPhone. They want to stop them from using any of their technology. Now, this lawsuit was waiting until it became clear that they could sue. There was another lawsuit against the NSO Group. Now I'm trying to remember the details of that, which was initially thrown out. And I think it was, who was it by? Was it by? Oh, boy.
Well, you know, the problem is, even if they manage to succeed and shut down NSO Group,
yeah,
these guys are just going to pop up under another name, or they're going to go, more than likely, most of the team working there came out of the Israeli intelligence service, as so many of the people in the Israeli crypto security or cybersecurity startup community does. They may just end up going back and just working for the Israeli intelligence service again. In
fact, Israel, when President Biden called for sanctions, and they did issue sanctions on the NSO Group, Israel says, stop it. This is an important part of our economy. They're trying to defend them. Facebook sued the NSO Group in a lawsuit saying they exploited a bug in the WhatsApp messaging system. And that lawsuit was initially, a trial judge refused it. Let's see, it was appeal. So the trial judge in July of 2020 threw it out, saying they're protected because they're foreign officials acting in an official capacity.
Both of the suits, they hinge on the violation of the terms of service.
Right.
So both Apple and Facebook are claiming that, yes, you can do security research. We can't outlaw that, but you're not allowed to violate the terms of service in doing that research. And in both cases, the NSO Group required Apple and Facebook IDs so that they could send the malformed packets to targets and infect the phones.
So you have to, in effect, use those services.
Yeah.
So let me get this.
You have to agree to it in order to get the ID properly.
Let me get this straight. So Facebook sued. The trial judge said that you can sue. Facebook appealed, and now in a 3-0 decision, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit has reaffirmed the judge's ruling that the NSO Group is not immune from being sued. It is not acting as a government agent. It is a privately owned company. So that lawsuit goes on. Immediately after that decision, Apple sued NSO Group as well for basically the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Craig Federighi said, state-sponsored actors like the NSO Group spend millions of dollars on sophisticated surveillance technologies without effective accountability, and that has to change. Right on, go after them. Microsoft and Google filed an amicus brief supporting the Facebook lawsuit. And the reason this is an issue, as you said, it's the economy of this. So hackers right now, if they find a 0-day, have a number of choices. If I find a 0-day that allows me to exploit an iPhone, I can go to Apple and say, hey, I found a 0-day. What's called responsible disclosure. Apple does have a bug bounty for that. That might amount to maybe $50,000, $100,000. You take the money, Apple fixes it, it goes public, it's done. You could also go to, there are a number of companies like Zerodium that on behalf of companies, Zerodium's one of the good guys, the premium exploit, actually, are they one of the good guys? I can't remember now. Is it Zimperium or Zerodium? I think Zerodium might be a bad guy. We pay big bounties. The world's leading exploit acquisition platform. So I think Zerodium's good. We talk about this on Security Now all the time.
Zimperium is the one that had a 0-day, a huge 0-day, and they didn't use it.
Yeah. So Zerodium takes money from the companies, buys these back, maybe even for more money. So you could go to them. But there's always, if you've got a really good 0-day, a zero-click 0-day for an iPhone, the people who are going to pay the most for this are groups like the NSO Group, because they're going to sell them for the most to countries like Turkey and Bahrain, who will pay $1 million because they'll use these 1 or 2 times to hack particular people, typically dissidents, journalists, sometimes terrorists.
Well, that's their business model. So they are not selling the exploit. They're selling the use of the exploit. They want to keep the exploit because the longer they hold on to it exclusively, the more they can milk out of potential customers. Now, if this suit goes forward and it turns out that NSO cannot use accounts to send these exploits, then they could just change their business model to sell the zero-day exploits to anybody who wants them.
And let
now,
them
let them
use an account. Yeah.
Precisely, exactly. So it's not going to stop the exploits. They're just going after the profit center.
So I'm a tin horn dictator in a 2-bit country, and I don't like it that this journalist is writing articles about how corrupt I am. I go to NSO Group and I say, how much to hit this guy? They say $1 million. I give them $1 million. They don't give me anything, any code.
Correct.
They use their Apple messaging account to infect the journalist's phone with malware. Does that then give the 2-bit tin horn dictator access to the malware, or does NSO run the whole? Okay.
Well, so they can run it any way they want it. They can either have it shuttled directly to the dictator, or they can shuttle it to their. I would assume that it goes directly to the dictator because they wouldn't want to touch illegal information.
Right.
That would compromise them.
So all they've done, all the NSO Group has done, is use their messages account to infect the phone using the zero-click.
They unlock the door.
They unlock
and
the
then
door.
let the dictator walk in.
The dictator gets in. Got it. Mm-hmm. And Apple's claim is you use that account under false pretenses. You violated our terms of service. You can't do that.
Correct. And if they win, then NSO Group goes, okay, well, we're no longer charging you $1 million because we're basically going to burn this exploit if we give it to you, but we'll give you the exploit for $30 million.
Yeah. I am going to guess that one of the reasons Israel and Washington, D.C. are reluctant to do much about NSO Group is that they both use it.
They're using the exploits.
I'm going to guess that the intelligence community is saying, well, yeah, they're bad guys, but it sure is useful.
Well, that's Palantir.
And, the reality is, if NSO's got this stuff, there's others that have it too, particularly.
No, that's the point. That's the point. And they guard these so 100%. Now, your point is correct that the hacker who came up with this, if NSO Group isn't there paying $1 million, they'll go to the next guy giving him $1 million. So other
that's
people
what I'm saying.
do it.
Yeah,
but
the
NSO
NSA
Group's
or
exploits are tightly held.
The FSB, these various agencies, if the NSO Group doesn't have them, they have other exploits, or similar exploits, and maybe even the same exploits. I mean, there's no guarantee that if there's an exploit there that only one person has found it.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of exploits that can be incredibly useful. So you collect a bunch of exploits that maybe themselves don't do much, but when you start combining them, then you can actually get into information that you shouldn't have access to. So that's what NSO Group is really, really good at. They'll buy seemingly useless exploits, and then it becomes a horrible, horrible thing once they have enough that they
find ways
to
chain them together.
Precisely.
Yeah. It's like part A,
and
part
they're
B
exceptionally
epoxy.
good at that. Yeah.
And then the NSO Group, they're kind of like Ray Donovan. Like, the cops want to arrest him, but they need him to do some stuff every once in a
while. It's really interesting. Of course, there are people, lots of people who are making money through various bug bounty programs, or Pwn to Own, which is a bug bounty program, or these companies like Zerodium. But if you've got a really good zero-click, zero-day on an iPhone, and you do this for a living, there's a place you can go and make the most possible money. And that's NSO Group, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what made the Zimperium story so interesting when it first came out. You had a research company that had an Android exploit that was a non-click exploit. You send it, and the phone is exploited. This was worth millions upon millions of dollars if they had just sat on it and developed it. But they released it under a bug bounty. They got nothing except publicity. Now, it was a feel-good story, but the underground was looking at this going, well, that's just stupid. You'll get your $150K bug bounty, and actually, no, they took $1,337. That was it. And that was it. It was gone. So, and it turned out to be an anti-responsibility campaign because people said, don't be Zimperium. Don't be an idiot. Don't sell the $10 million exploit for 1,000.
It's a what
if that feel good story was a herring? So look, hey guys, I'm giving this one away for free, da 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 da, and then now everybody knows who did it. So you call that guy Mignola, Mike, what you doing this weekend? Like come and work for us.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like that's your credo that says that you can do it. Like the Manigoat stacking quarters on top of the backboards at the basketball courts in Brooklyn. And then that became the legend. So now everybody was after him. Prior to that, nobody in the NBA wanted to, draft him because he didn't go to college. Back then, that wasn't a thing, right? So, yeah, maybe that's the story. Maybe now they're looking for the guy who did it and trying to bring him in.
I feel like there's so much going on that we don't really know about, right? It's all behind the scenes, mysterious.
Well, there's a couple of discords for that.
Yeah, exactly. You've always had a little bit of that black hat thing going on, Father Robert.
I dipped a toe or two.
Yeah, which is funny because you're a priest, but
my peeps.
I guess there's the angel on your shoulder, there's the devil on your shoulder.
Well, he dresses in black. Probably wears a black hat sometimes.
There's a little professionalism. I had a very long and civil message chain with a group that actually exploited a network here in the Vatican, and he let me know how they did it. So I mean, I appreciated it.
And that was important because you're the guy
correct
who had to fix it, or talk to the guys who had to fix it.
Correct.
Why did they talk to you? Why did they tell you? Did they decide it probably was imprudent to hack the Vatican?
We had met each other a long time ago, and he did not know that network was connected to me.
And so he respected you.
Correct.
Oh. Robert, for years you've gone to Black Hat and DEF CON and kind of hobnobbed with this community.
See, this is why it's worth going to conferences.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You just came up with a good
no
reason.
one's going to discuss this over a Zoom call, but they will if you give them enough tequila. They'll discuss it in a back room somewhere.
Interesting.
It's also, I think it's important in a way as well, because one thing that a lot of the guys who had the skills they went into helping out, law enforcement for kidnapping cases and things like that. Some girls that are here did a really good documentary on trafficking coming from Cambodia, where they're originally from. And it was a group of hackers that sort of helped get the ring shut down. And, it's pretty impressive story when you hear it. So I think, we do need some guys that are kind of can go on both sides in order to help solve this stuff. And there's a really good one right now about a fellow who is helping this catch the scammers. He works in the center, and then when he sees them about to get somebody really bad, like he'll secretly call them and be like, "Hey, you're talking to this dude right now. He's telling you to do this." Yeah, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "Don't do that. This guy's full of crap. Just hang up, or see if you can merge the call in with police at the same time." And so he works in the call center in Calcutta. And he's stopping this lady. The one that I saw recently, he stopped this lady from transmitting like $150,000 on the Social Security Administration fraud type thing. It's crazy. If I can find the story, I'll send it to you. But yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I'm not up to date on how people become hackers. In my day, the hackers I knew, people like John Draper, Woz, they had a fascination for this stuff. They often started with phone phreaking, with the phone system, because at the time that was the most complicated network in the world. And you would dig through dumpsters out behind network operations centers and try to find manuals. You would learn about this stuff, and you would hack it. It was fun. It was spelunking. It was exploration. Later, as they became coders, they might start doing the same thing with computer operating systems and computer software. And at the time, it was just kind of fun. Some people... and again, I'm familiar with the older generation, the old school hackers, but some people like Kevin Poulsen and Kevin Mitnick would sometimes, Mitnick had these interests and skills, and then kind of turned him a little bit to the dark side as a way to make money. He was hacking radio station contests, which isn't a huge crime. Got caught for it. That's old school. Nowadays, maybe you know better, Father Robert, having in communication. How does somebody get into this? Is it the same kind of process where you're kind of fascinated by computers and you learn to code? And
you have just wandered into one of the most toxic threads on Twitter. Just look for OPSEC, and everyone has an opinion on what a hacker is and isn't, how you become a hacker, how you get a reputation. The people who can step back and have a toe in this world and yet not be completely paralyzed by what's going on in the world, we see that a hacker is anyone who's curious. If you like breaking things and seeing why they broke, and then you're a hacker. You go to DEF CON, you go to Black Hat, you talk to these people who have different skill sets. When we do like a security evaluation, you're looking at everything. You're looking at physical security. And for someone, you would look like at Deviant Oldham, and you'd bring him in. He is the king of physical security. He will teach you everything you've done wrong about securing your perimeter.
Are they academically trained? Are they amateurs? Are they hobbyists?
No, I mean, I wouldn't call them amateurs, but most of these people, they didn't get formal training.
They're not formally trained. No.
Right.
Well, there is, but I don't know how good it is. I mean, I think, there's things like the certified ethical hacker training. People can learn pen testing, things like that. But I think the people who are and this is also that the dark side. And I think you have a little bit of that edge in you where you kind of are intrigued by the kind of stuff that's a little bit beyond the pale.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You can train to be blue team. There's great training for blue team, the defenders.
Yeah.
Red team is, you've got to enjoy something a bit more. You've got to really like pushing past what people say is possible. And yeah, you have to be willing to kind of do things sometimes that maybe aren't ethical. I'm not saying that these are bad people, but it's that curiosity. The curiosity has to drive you to say, well, what happens if I do X, Y, and Z?
Right.
When normal people wouldn't do X, Y, and Z because that seems not good.
Difference between a black hat and white hat clear? Or do many white hats kind of do both? I mean, it seems like it's a very fuzzy line between ethical and unethical hacking, yes?
When I was younger, I thought it was a very clear line. Black hat, if you do anything illegal, if anything that you do could be prosecuted under a law, then it was a black hat. Then we started referring to people as gray hats when they would dip back and forth. But by and far, gray hats still didn't do anything that was clearly illegal. Now you're a security researcher, and the laws that you have to cross because you're dealing with the internet, which will go across dozens, if not hundreds, of legal jurisdictions where something might be illegal in one place and not illegal in another, you can't really rely on those old distinctions anymore.
Yeah, and also the feds, at least in the U.S., have made that definition a little bit obsolete by overextending what the Computer Fraud Act can be used for. A lot of people who are doing things that are, at least on the face of it, are not illegal, are charged with illegality and end up going to jail even. So that definition doesn't work anymore because federal law has frankly been bent and misused to extend it.